Welcome to Infinity Genealogy. I am your favorite genealogist, Alia Diani, but you can also call me AD. And I am here back with another video talking about just resources for you to check and learn more about your Black American ancestors. Previously, I've done videos on finding some of your indigenous ancestors. I talked about how Ancestry defines indigenous and how they use that when they're creating their DNA compositions and all of your ethnic breakdowns and all that stuff. And so this series has been going on longer than I thought it would. So I don't even want to call it a series. These are just like regular posts. Just because, again, in this space, we learn, grow, and question. We are learning together. We are growing together. We are questioning together. You question everything, right? Because so much of our history has been tampered with and we have been lied to and we've only been told one narrative. And a lot of those times, that is all, it's not always 100% accurate. They keep us in one box so we don't expand. And because they control the narrative and control the media that continuously perpetuates that same narrative, we just feel like this is all that we are. We don't even think about the possibilities or the fact that we are limitless beings in some regard. And so I am here to remind you of that power. No, continue to do research. You'll find contradictions when you keep reading. And so I like to go on tangents sometimes because I get really passionate. As you can tell, I love this work. I am passionate about this work. And so, because of my passion, it may come off as like, she got a little tone. Yes, because I love this and I want to help others, you know, learn more about themselves and be proud of who they are, where they come from. But before you can be proud of something, you have to know. You have to know who you are and where you come from. Okay, so with that being said, we are still in Black History Month. But to be honest, I don't know when I'm going to post this. So if it's beyond or if I post this after Black History Month, it doesn't matter because Black History is every single day. Every time you twist a doorknob, every time you go on an elevator, every time you use a refrigerator, every time you use a GPS, every time you use a cellular phone, every time you make your peanut butter and jelly, every time you iron your clothes, brush your hair, baby, it is coded in us. So, with that being said, let's get into it. All right. Researching African American ancestors. Again, I am using ancestry.com and I am looking at their article section. I always love to look at the blogs, the articles, the frequently asked questions because there is so much information there. Sometimes we just use Ancestry just for the family tree or for our ethnic breakdown, but these sources can help us fully understand what we're looking at. Sometimes we think, oh, my DNA my DNA report told me I'm 35% Nigerian, so that means I'm Nigerian. Okay, you may have some ancestry. That may be a marker that they use, but let's go into their research and read how do they identify who is what is what, right? And so by the time you finish reading those documents and those articles, you can say, okay, well, maybe I'm not Nigerian, but based on my DNA, they have marked that this is Nigerian. Okay. And note that each system, each DNA company qualifies those markers very different from each other, right? So you may do ancestry.com like we are now. You may do 23andMe, you may do My Heritage, you may do African American Ancestry, or there's a few other. There's so many out there now. And if you do all of them, you're going to get five different results, or however, if it's five out there, you're going to get five different results. Again, because each of them qualifies information differently, and the more information they get, the more that your DNA results can be updated. So it's not a final thing. Like our DNA is pretty much final unless you do something to alter it, right? But other than that, it's final. And that's why I really push genealogy, because your paper trail is your paper trail. Your grandmother is always going to be your grandmother. Your grandfather, your great grandfather, your great grandfather is always going to be those things. But who their racial makeup and ethnic makeup may shift depending on the time of the when they were born. Because, like, if you watch any of my previous videos, I talked about and I showed you the official document of how Black Americans were reclassified at least 5 to 6 times in our time span from 1790 until 2010. So, if you haven't watched that video, please do so. Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk that much. So, let's get into researching African American ancestors. For my own personal choice, I'm gonna use the term Black American. Okay. Okay. Due to the long history of slavery in the United States, family research can be challenging for many Black Americans. Census takers rarely recorded the names of enslaved people and seldom listened family members together. Enslaved people were often subject to forced name changes, family separation, and other injustices that continue to cause challenges when finding people from the past. But here are some strategies to help. Of course, you can download this guide. So I'm going to click as I go this time. So they have a full guide. So they say get into 1870. They want you to start at 1950. Work backwards, read death certificates. They point out, they highlight um, so when someone passed away, to um, their names of their parents, 3, any other details. Oh, wait, I think they did that backwards. This is age. 2 should say age, right? Yeah, age, and then 3 here are the names of parents. Okay, so I think that's a little, they need to update that. And then they have free or enslaved. This is important here, y'all. Not all African Americans were enslaved, so do not automatically assume your ancestors were. Check the 1960 and 1950 census to see if your ancestors were free. It's funny that they did 1960 before 1950, but minding my business. Here, and it's more information. So, actually, one day soon we're gonna tackle this. I'm gonna do another video of us just reading this because this is actually my first time reviewing. So let's do that. Okay, let's see what else they have. They have slave schedules. Again, if you've been to any of my in-person courses, I've broken down how to read census documents, all those fun things. All right, let's go back. All right, so of course you gather family Bibles, journals, letters, diaries, photographs, obituaries, newspaper clippings, marriage, death, birth certificates, any family sheets, pedigree charts, and book of remembrance. Interview questions I think are very similar to the Native American one that we talked about in the previous video. Yes, it's the same. So, who were the oldest members of your family that you knew personally? What level of education? What are some family traditions? Is any illnesses that run in the family? Bro, I need to slow down. Then you create your family tree. And then you can also search family trees. Okay. I will say, please keep in mind when you search family trees, this can be just like anything in life. You have the duality, you have the good, the bad, left, right, up, down. There are moments when searching a family tree is fantastic because you get to find people or learn about people that you never learned before. And you may have a cousin who knew your great grandmother that you didn't know or whatever. So shout out to all of our family members who are also putting together family trees and adding all of the branches to the family tree, not just direct like not just direct lines. So shout out to them. But also sometimes they may not get it right, or they may just write down what they heard, or they accept every hint that Ancestry provides for them. Although those hints may be act, those hints may seem right. They are hints because of someone else's family tree or because they've noticed a pattern. Kind of think of it as like an algorithm. If the algorithm keeps seeing you watching genealogy videos, whenever you get on YouTube, you're just going to see nothing but genealogy, right? So keep that in mind as you're looking at hints, okay? Here are some other strategies. It talks about tracing your family backwards. So the federal census were taken every 10 years. So trace your ancestors backwards in the census, starting from your immediate family, recording each detail that you can find. Enslaved people were not usually named in the census. Usually, it is, again, I'm one of those people, I pay attention to the language. It did not say absolute. Like, it did not say, oh, they are not listed. It said usually. So sometimes is, sometimes not. All right. Slavery was abolished in 1865. So the first census that included the names of most Black Americans were in the 1870 U.S. Census. If you can trace an ancestor back to the 1870 census, you have a good start. The next step is to find whether they appeared in the 1860 U.S. Federal Census. So let's see. Did it open? Did it open? Oh, okay. It opened on the back side. Sorry, yeah. And so here's the census that pops up. Okay. In the 1860, about 10% of African Americans were free. So before the abolishment of slavery, about 10% were free. Okay, keep that in mind. If your ancestor was free in 1860, they were listed in the census. If you cannot find them in the 1860 census, they were likely among the 90% of African Americans who were still enslaved. Look to for your ancestors in the mortality schedules. This is so important. I don't talk about this enough, and I need to. These are indexes of people who died during the 12 months before the fort. Okay, so these schedules often include names of both freemen and enslaved people, but sometimes the names of enslaved people were excluded in the index. Trace your ancestors backwards until you can't find them anymore. At that point, it's time to find the name of the last enslaver. All right. So his mortality schedule. Can I think of anybody's name? Well, I don't think it'll be there. That's not a good person. But he is on the 1880 census. Okay, cool. All right, moving on. Right, is this the right one? Nope, Native American. I could delete that. Okay. All right, tracing your ancestors. Okay. Finding the last enslaver. So to find pre 1870 records that include your African American ancestor, you may need to find records of the enslaver. If your ancestor has an uncommon last name like myself, search census for white people with the same surname as your ancestor in the same area. When you find them, make a list of these possible enslavers. Only about 15% of the formerly enslaved people took their enslavers' surnames. Keep this in mind. Only about 15%. So when we start, we always say, oh, we took our slave owners' last names. That may or may not be true. So keep that in mind. There are so many things that we say in our community that we just pass down as fact because it's been passed down to us, and no one ever stops and verify and checks what that means. So, everyone did not take their enslaver's name. So keep that in mind. Okay? Let's move on. Let's move on, y'all. Then you have to search the Freedmen's Bureau and check your ancestor's name. Oh, that page is no longer linked. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen's, and Abandonment or Abandoned Lands was established in 1865. Let me read that again. The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, And abandoned lands was established in 1865 to help newly freed Black Americans transition to life outside of slavery. The names of former enslavers were often included in labor contracts, sharecropping agreements, and marriage records. Read more about the Freedmen's Bureau records and Freedmen's Bank records. Oh, it's still available. Y'all, come on. This is my first time seeing this. I'm excited. How far? Let me see how much information. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do another video. I'm gonna have to do another video. I'm gonna have to do another video. I'm so happy. Okay, let me delete this because that's an error. First, identify an ancestor in the colored troops military service records. Then use that information to find find to locate the same person in the pension records, which often lists the names of enslavers. Keep that in mind. Search the Freedmen's Bank records. Yeah, we got so much. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second because I get excited and passionate because I love this work. So many times people tell us, oh, you can't trace back your ancestry. And for some people, that may be true. But look at the resources that are available. Even for me as a genealogist, I've been doing this for a while. Some of these records I have not even heard of. I have not heard of the U.S. colored troops. I have not heard of the Civil War Pension Index. So, like, I'm still learning and growing. I'm still like, wow, this is amazing that no matter what, I have additional resources to look into. Okay. Moving on, going back to the Freedmen's Bank records, the Freedmen's Saving and Trust was an institution chartered by Congress to benefit a new to benefit. Am I reading this wrong? By Congress to benefit of newly emancipated people. This publication reproduces 55 volumes of signatures, personal identification data of thousands of depositors who maintain accounts in the bank. These records usually show account numbers, dates of applications, depositor's name, age, complexion. That's important. Place of birth, place birth and place raised is important because sometimes we move. We may, like for me, I was born in one place, raised in another since 3. So, occupation, spouse, children, family members, names, remarks, and signature. This is a lot of information, and it usually shows this, right? But you can learn a lot about your family just from this. Okay, these deposits sometimes include the name of a formerly enslaved person, their family members, and former enslaver. Search the wills and probates records. Enslavers' wills and probate records often list enslaved people by name. Where did it go? Where's the by name? Okay. Search U.S. interviews with former slaves, 1936 to 1939. This database contains more than 2,300 first person accounts of slavery and 500 black and white photographs of those who were formerly enslaved. This is searchable by any words or references to specific names can be found easily. Enslavers were often named in the narratives. Where did it go? So you can search names, and then again, I always tell y'all look on the related data collections. This New Orleans slave, I need this for my family. So you have New Orleans, Louisiana, U.S. slave manifest, U.S. East, Southeast, coastwise, inward and outward slave manifest. You have Mississippi, newspaper slave ads. Yeah, stop telling. One thing I really want to emphasize is two things. First, look at the resource information. Look at where this is located. Look at this. You can go to the Library of Congress as well. So if something happens to Ancestry, you can always look at the source of information. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this if it'll let me. Did it let me because I'm recording? I don't think so. Oh, it did. Perfect. I'm still recording. Okay. And so it also gives you more information. So yeah, it's Ancestry is not known as the world's largest, census database and family history database for no reason. It has its flaws, like everything, like us, but it is a good starting point for a lot of information. Search enslaved schedules. If you know the enslaver's name and your ancestors likely year of birth, try researching the 1850 slave schedules and 1860 slave schedules, helping you to understand the slave schedules. Let's see what that looks like. It gives you the breakdown, how to interpret it. And I'm going to focus. Okay, is there anything that's important here? Yeah, I'm going to have to do a part two. It's so much stuff I want to get into, and I'm going to keep these videos shorter because I know, some of y'all, not even just y'all, even my attention span, but I'm going to pause. We going to pause, baby. I'm trying to create a library of information and of content. So that's another reason why I want to keep these a little bit shorter so you can always go back. If you want to learn about slave schedules, there's going to be a video on that. If you want to learn about African American ancestry and history, you can learn, So like I want to keep it like that. So sorry, y'all. I'm going to get to it, I promise. And then more resources. So you have the African American history page. You have African American historical record collection. You have Afrogenius, um, provides resources for African related genealogy with the vision of finding and documenting the last slaveholder and the first African in each family. This is new for me. I never know this existed. You have Cindy's List, has a index of genealogy sites for African American research. You have the National Archives. I'm gonna click it anyway, y'all. Okay, but it popped right up. And then you have the Hutchins Center of African and African American Research, which I never heard about, and it's a Harvard Research Center that supports research on the history and culture of African descent and people of African descent, and provides a forum for collaboration. So thank you, Ancestry, for all these resources. Please note that in all of the descriptions, you will find links to the articles that I'm reviewing. So thank you all so much. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.